Namaste Saraswati Devi Gurvani Pracharini Vishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Vishvatarini Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Radhe, Radhe.
We're woken up the dead.
The whole neighbourhood's heard it now, isn't it?
Interesting. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminati Namana Namaste Saraswati Devi Orvani Pujami Nidase Shasanyati Paspatide Sutamane Om Agyanataminandasya Jana Jana Salakaya Chaksusumilatan Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Caitanya Manabhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sa Pandantika. Mansakopa Trubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Vayevacha Patitanam Papanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. The old Brahmana had promised the younger Brahmana in front of the deity of Gopal in Vrindavan to give his daughter in charity to the young boy who had taken care of him so carefully during their pilgrimage. But then when they got back to their home place of Vidyanagara, the old Brahmana went to his place and the young Brahmana went to his place, and the old Brahmana waited some time and then told his family of what he had promised in front of the deity. And his family members, I don't know if we said it in different ways, we could say what happened. They didn't appreciate that he had made the promise. Another way we could say it in more contemporary, not contemporary maybe, but older terms, is that they went bonkers. They went crazy. They said that if you do this, we're going to take poison and kill ourselves. He's not aristocratic. He'll ruin our position in our society. In society, if you do this, it'll be terrible, terrible. We'll kill ourselves if you do this. We'll take poison and die. So the older Brahmana, of course he didn't want his family members to die. But yet he didn't want to break his word that he had given in front of Gopal, the deity, in a holy place. So he was thinking, how could I lie? And the older Brahmana's eldest son said, you don't have to lie, you just have to just bend the truth a little bit and say, I cannot remember exactly what I said. And then I will take care of the rest. So the boy, the older Brahmana, when he heard all these different points, Vipra Vale, he said, if I don't give my daughter to this Brahmana, they'll call the Gopal as a witness and my religious principles, and then he will take my daughter by force, and then I won't have been honest, and also my daughter will be gone and the family will be in distress. So he didn't know what to do. So the older Brahmana's son said, the deity will come here as a witness. He's a big stone statue. How will he come here as a witness? So Prabhupada in his purport explains that this is obviously an atheistic point of view, that somehow or another Krishna doesn't have the capacity to do as he likes in any situation. So next, feeling hopeless after understanding all these points, the old Brahmana, Etashuni Viprara Chintata Hoilaman, in his mind he felt great anxiety. But then Ekanta Bhave, with great anxiety, but with focused devotion, Vipra Gopala Charan, he just focused his consciousness fully on the feet of Gopal. And this is an ideal reaction to a difficult situation, because sometimes in life we find ourselves in a situation if we go this way, it's going to be a disaster. If we go this way, it's going to be a disaster. And whatever we do is going to be terrible. It's the paradoxes that we're confronted with in life. And the prime thing that the older Brahmana did when he couldn't do anything else, he just took shelter of Krishna. No path seemed right. What can I do, Krishna? I am yours. So then, the difficult situations, more than being only a difficult situation, it confronts us with the reality of material life. That there is no solution actually on the material platform. And therefore, the difficult situation becomes a blessing in the sense that it pushes a pious person, a devoted person, from our usual position that we want a little bit, we want spiritual life, but we also want something on this side also. So it pushes such a person who's devoted, he pushes him to the side of taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, which is the greatest blessing. Why? Why is that a real blessing? Yes. And what else? Who else would say, well, that's a true blessing? Father of the Brahmin boy, would you like to? Oh, I'm not able to hear, unfortunately. Don't bother you anymore. Yeah, and we need that shelter. Once we have that shelter, the other things are in their perspective of just, well, that's the material world. That's the very nature of the material world. So far, so distant from my concept of how I want the material world to be. We want the material world to be what? We want it to be just like the spiritual world with Krishna not there, because that would take too much time and get in the way of what I like to do. But that pushes us into the ultimate reality from the illusion that we find ourselves tending towards continuously, is trying to make the material world into a perfect place, and pushing away that and grabbing more of that and doing more of this and not doing more of that, and anyone who gets in their way, may they fall in a manhole or something like that. Or you know what a manhole is? No, but it's a good name for what it is. It's the sewer pipe or the water drainage pipe that has the metal covers over it. And you know why it's called a manhole? Because if you take away the cover and a man walks over it, he's going to fall in the hole. And in some places of the world, and I know quite a few of them, is that sometimes people steal the covers and sell them for the metal. And you know what happens when the men walk over the manhole? Well, you can guess. So the older Brahmana, son, was a true atheist. The younger Brahmana, and Prabhupada calls such a person an idol worshipper, because he was worshiping the deity. He was a pious, he had that type of culture. So he would go in front of the deity, but he didn't really believe that the deity was the deity. The deity, because deity it's really a Latin word. The English is a Latin word. It comes from the word Dios, which means God. So he didn't really believe that the deity was God. Now you can speak Latin also, yes? What does Dios mean? I think that might be Spanish, though. You know what it means? God. So the word deity comes from that. So he was an idol worshiper. He was worshipping that which is not God, because he didn't believe that was God, the Supreme Lord. Because the Supreme Lord, obviously, by definition, has the power to do the impossible, because what we mean by impossible is that it can't be done by us, or it's against the laws of nature. But who institutes the laws of nature? It's the Supreme Lord. So it's for him, for he who has the power to institute the laws of nature. There's no problem for him not having to obey the laws of nature, because the laws of nature are coming from him anyway. So the elder Brahmana turned his attention to the lotus feet of the Lord and took shelter of him, and he's saying that I have no other hope other than you. No one but you could solve this issue for me. Does anyone have such issues in their life that no one in the world but the Supreme Lord can solve it? I do. I know that other people may too. Everyone but Suno and Sunny and Raj Mohan. You don't have those kind of issues, right? Or do you? Yes? Even now? Wow, you're such a deep thinker. I had issues in life when I was your age. I said, how could I play basketball or something like that? Something on that level. So then, the next day, the elderly Brahmana was thinking about this issue. How am I going to solve this problem? I don't want my family members to die. How could he? But yet I want to keep my word. And just as he was thinking like that, one of the other players in this drama appeared on the scene. The young Brahmana came to his house. And the younger Brahmana, he came to him, and the first thing he did was offer his obeisances very respectfully, and then he humbly folded his hands in front of the older Brahmana, and he spoke as follows, and he said, "You have promised to give your daughter in charity to me, but now you don't say anything, you don't do anything. What is your conclusion? I don't know what to make of this." And after the young Brahmana submitted this statement, because he was so pure-hearted that he couldn't conceive of this older Brahmana who he knew was also pure-hearted, who had made the promise in front of the deity, and after the young Brahmana had said, no, you can't do this. It's not going to work. Your family members will never accept it. He couldn't conceive that this older Brahmana wouldn't keep his word. So to even be like that takes a simplicity and purity of heart. But then, just after the younger Brahmana submitted his statement that, what is your conclusion? You don't say anything, you don't do anything. And then taking the opportunity, as soon as the younger Brahmana said that, the elderly Brahmana, he didn't say anything, even when confronted with that. What could he say? He couldn't say yes, he couldn't say no, couldn't say yes because you can take hers, because then his family members would be so furious and they would kill themselves and everything. And then he couldn't say no because then his religious principles would be broken. So this is character, spiritual character. But more than having character, he was greatly devoted to the deity. So he just stood there silent. But that silence didn't last long, because the older Brahmana's son immediately came with a stick to strike the younger man. And the son said, "You are so degraded, Adama. You are so degraded, you are so low. You in your condition, your position, you want to marry my sister? Just like a dwarf who wants to catch the moon. A tall man can't even catch the moon. What to speak of a dwarf? So a tall man, if he thought he could catch the moon, he would be considered foolish, arrogant, not understanding reality. What to speak of science? What to speak of a dwarf who knows that he's short and tiny in size? And he had a stick in his hand. And seeing the stick in the hand of the sun, the younger Brahmana fled. He ran. But he wasn't finished with the issue. The next day, he gathered together all the people of the village. Now, these were olden times when there were communities and villages and people cared. There's a saying that it takes a village to bring up a boy, meaning that there's different roles that different people would have in the village, and if it's just a family of a husband and wife and the two kids, it's not sufficient, because the children need other people around them too to teach them, to train them, for them to see. And a village life is more natural, because one can't be self-sufficient, for example, by oneself. But in a village, one can basically get all one's needs met. This is an old-fashioned village. And the village has many different kinds of people in it. And one of the characteristics of a village is what? Who can guess what I'm thinking? Yes.
Everybody knows everyone else's business.
Exactly the words. Everyone knows everyone else's business. And everyone talks about everyone else's business, because especially when people go to the well, the ladies go to the well to get water and things like that, and the men sit around and sit around. That's what they do in the villages. You see this in Braj, except in Braj they do other things too, which better they were just sitting around. But in any case, they just talk. That's called Gramya Katha. That's village gossip. And of course, none of us do anything like that, of course. But in any case, the younger Brahmana, the next day, gathered all the people of the village. Come, have something to say. So everyone having very little to do at that time, and they had no emails to answer, no WhatsApp, there was no TV, they had their farming or whatever they did, but it wasn't. So they all came because there was something to hear, some interesting thing. It may be good news, it must be maybe bad news, it may be, who knows. So he gathered together all the people of the village. And all the people of the village, after hearing what he had to say, that this Brahmana, he promised me his daughter, told everyone, this is called Rajniti, or village politics. And we used to see this in Vrindavan, and Caitanya Mataji can also vouch for this. Like, say if you want this person to do something, when you don't talk to him, because you've already talked to him and said, you should do this, it's proper, you owe me this money, and he hasn't given it. So there's two ways you do it. One way is you sit with one of his friends, and you look at him and point to him. You say, Adi, this person over here, your friend over here, he owes me this amount of money. But you never look at him, you look at his friend only, but he won't give it to me, then you tell his other friend. So this is the system. No one thinks it's funny. Anyway, I used to think it was funny. And then the other thing you do is you tell everyone everyone, as many people as you can. That, this person owes me this amount of money, won't give it to me, and tell this person, this person, this person, this person, this person. And then suddenly, then all those people go to him, the person who owes you money, and from 15 different sides, they're all saying, I heard you owe this person money, I heard you owe this person money, and you won't give it to him, I heard you owe this. So there's so much pressure. This one you can relate to more, there's more people laughing and smiling. But this is how it works. Is it like that in the Punjab? Kenya? Huh? Same basic concepts.
Very workable justice.
Well, when it works well, but it also does other things too. Because you can just make up stuff too, and just spread that around too. And then, because if there's a rumor going around about someone, whether it's true or not, if it's bad, everyone will believe it. So it works, it has many facets to it.
Yes,
But
it works as high as the consciousness of the village.
yes, exactly. And generally speaking, the consciousness in a village is mediocre at best. So all the people of the village, after hearing this story, what had happened, was it like that in the workplace too?
Politics,
Yeah, like that. And everyone, and therefore, see, Caitanya Mahaprabhu told Raghunath Das Goswami, Gramya Katana Shunibe. Don't listen to this Gramya Katha. Because once it gets in your mind, in your ear, it goes through your ear, into your mind, and then again and again and again and again and again and again, and then you don't know how true it is, or you tell someone else. That's the other thing you do. Did you hear that this and such and such and such, this Brahmana didn't do that? Really, I didn't know that. And on and on and on, and then you get entangled in this web. So all the people of the village then called for the elderly Brahmana and brought him to their meeting place. And the young Brahmana then began to speak before them as follows. So he was very serious. This gentleman has promised to hand over his daughter to me, yet now he doesn't fulfill his promise. So what a different age it was that people were actually expected to fulfill their promise. And if they said something, they were expected to keep it. And it would be a terrible thing, an improper thing, if one broke one's word. So it was really a different age. This gentleman has promised to hand over his daughter to me, yet he now does not follow his promise. Please ask him about his behavior. You ask him why he's acting like this. So all the people gathered there asked the elderly Brahmana, if you have already promised to give him your daughter in charity, why are you not fulfilling your promise? You have given your word of honor. The elderly Brahmana said, with all the people around him, including the younger Brahmana, he said, my dear friends, please hear what I have to submit. I do not exactly remember making a promise like that. This was what his son had suggested was a way out. Don't lie, but don't remember either. Did you ever try that trick, Brother Mohan? Probably. No, you're supposed to say, I may have, but I can't quite remember. When the elderly Brahmana's son heard this, he took the opportunity to juggle some words, and becoming very impudent, He stood before the assembly and spoke as follows. While touring different various holy places in pilgrimage, my father carried much money. And seeing the money, this rogue, this younger Brahmana, decided to take it away. He decided to steal it. And there was no one beside this man with my father. And giving him an intoxicant known as Dutora to eat. Some leaves of Dutora make you somewhat crazy. This rogue made my father mad. Having taken all my father's money, this rogue claimed that it was taken by some thief. And now he's claiming that my father has promised to give him his daughter in charity. And all of you assembled here are gentlemen and gentle ladies. Please judge whether it is befitting to offer this poor Brahmana my father's daughter. So he lied, and then he complimented all the people for their good judgment and how intelligent and good they were gentle folks. And look at this Brahmin, he's poor, and you know our position, and you know the way that the society works, that there is no giving of wealthy to the impoverished. Do you think my father would do this? Do you think he promised, like he's claiming? Do you think he really would promise to give his daughter, my sister, to this person in charity? Do you believe that? Hearing all these statements, all the people that gathered there became a little doubtful. Who is actually telling the truth here? It is quite possible, they thought, that because of attraction for riches, one might give up his religious principles. And this is true. Isn't it? We all know this. Especially, there's a saying that Prabhupada would say that poverty brings out the worst qualities in a man. And then one sees an opportunity to get some wealth without endeavor, and your whole life you haven't had any wealth, and therefore you somehow scheme to get that money, and no one will know, of course, except for Krishna. So very easy to fall into that kind of a temptation and trap. So they thought it could have happened. Who knows what really happened? But at that time, the young Brahmana said, "My dear gentlemen, please hear. Just to gain victory in an argument, this man, asatya vachana, this man is lying. Being very satisfied with my service, this Brahmana said to me of his own accord, I promise to hand over my daughter to you. At that time, I forbade him to do this, telling him, O best of the Brahmanas, I am not a fit husband for your daughter, whereas you are a learned scholar, a rich man belonging to an aristocratic family. I'm a poor man, uneducated, with no claim to aristocracy. But still, this Brahmana insisted. Again and again he asked me to accept his proposal, saying, I have given you my daughter. Please accept her. I then said, please listen, please hear me. You are a learned Brahmana. You may want to give your daughter to me as my wife in charity, pleased with me, because I've helped you, I've taken care of you, I've not done it to get anything from you. just to offer service. So you may wish to give her to me out of the goodness of your heart. You are a learned Brahmana, but your wife, your friends, and your relatives will never agree to this proposal. My dear sir, you will not be able to fulfill your promise. You will not be able to keep your word. Your promise will be broken. I said this to him. Yet again and again, the Brahmana emphasized his promise. I have offered you my daughter. Do not hesitate. She is my daughter, and I shall give her to you. Who can forbid me? At that time, I concentrated my mind. Dhrida Korimana. Focused my mind, made it fixed and holding on to one thing. Gopalera age. Kohe e satyavachana. I concentrated my mind and I requested the Brahmana to make the promise before the Gopal deity. Then this gentleman said in front of the Gopal deity, my dear Lord, please bear witness. I have offered my daughter to this Brahmana in charity. Accepting the Gopal deity as my witness, I then submitted the following at his lotus feet. After Gopal had said this, and we heard his words previously, after the old Brahmana said this in front of Gopal, then the younger Brahmana said to the Gopal deity, if this Brahmana later hesitates to give me his daughter, my dear Lord, I shall call on you as a witness, Shakshi. I will call on you as a witness, and please note this with careful attention, because if there's a court case and if there's one person says no, it was like this, and the other person says no, it was like this, naturally they'd ask for witnesses. And the witnesses, if they were present there, there's something called hearsay also. I heard this, and that's not considered liable, but if I've heard this, through someone else on that's not, but if you actually see it, if some person says, I saw this and this is exactly what happened, then he's witnessing what had happened. Now, one problem of that is like when if there's a car accident, for example, and they call for the witnesses, and if you get 10 witnesses, they'll all say different things happened. So this is a possible problem. Did you know that? You know why that's true?
Because they're seeing from their own perspective?
Yes. They're seeing from their own. We don't actually see reality as it is, even though we think we understand. And when we have a disagreement with someone, we usually will think that if they only knew what I know, then they would have my conclusion. But it's not true. It's because everyone lives in their own universe which is basically their mind. And because everyone has a mind that's affected by different karma and different desires, no people can agree basically on anything, ultimately. Because everyone sees things from a different perspective, because we see things from our own minds. And this is the curse that we get along with our desire fulfilled to be the center of existence. We live in our mind, and we're the center of existence in our minds. And the curse part of that is that there we are alone, because no one else thinks of us as the center of existence. They think of themselves as the center of existence. So it's a very lonely universe in the mind, because we're the only person in it. What do you think about that, Braj Mohan? Actually, I didn't say it accurately. Krishna is always there, too, because he is in our heart. And he never leaves us. And he's just waiting for us to turn to him and say that I made a mistake. The mistake was wanting to be independent of you, even though, practically speaking, I can never be independent of you. And even though I'm trying to be independent of you, it's very lonely in my universe. And you always stay with me. Kindly, you always are so kind that you didn't leave me, even though I said I wanted to leave you. You stay with me. And now I am turning to you and saying, I am yours. Please allow me to serve you. And then things change. So the younger Brahmana said, thus I have called upon a great personality in this transaction. I have asked the Supreme Godhead to be my witness. The entire world accepts the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, if you have a witness who by definition knows everything, and if he says this is the truth, then who would not accept it? And that's what the Bhagavad Gita is, in that sense. It's the declared truth as spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to his devotee Arjuna. Now Prabhupada has a purport here, and I'm going to read it. And if you have any questions or want to make a comment as I'm reading this, just raise your hand and we shall do that. We shall allow you to do that. Although the young Brahmana described himself as having no claims to aristocracy and being an uneducated common man, still he had one good qualification. He believed that the Supreme Personality of Godhead was the topmost authority. He accepted the words of Lord Krishna without hesitation, and he had firm faith in the Lord's consistency. According to Prahlad Maharaj, another authority on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such a staunch and faithful devotee of the Lord must be understood to be a most learned scholar. Tanmanye aditam uttamam, from Bhagavatam 7.5.24. A pure devotee who has firm faith in the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be considered a most learned scholar. The topmost aristocrat and the richest man in the whole world. Now who can explain that statement? Who would like to say something about that statement, or who will say something? Yes. First, Mataji raised her hand. I must defer. That's a different criteria to the one that the world in general is using. Now, let me read it again. A pure devotee who has firm faith in the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be considered a most learned scholar, the topmost aristocrat, and the richest man in the whole world. It's a different criteria than the world is using for aristocracy being learned and wealth. Yes, thank you. Did you want to say something? Really don't.
I want to say that the greatest wealth one can possess is faith.
Why? The greatest wealth that one can possess is faith, said Muralidhar Prabhu. And I said, why?
Because when you have faith in the Supreme God, greater wealth can you have than the protection and shelter of the Lord?
Okay, but if you don't have faith, then you don't accept him as the highest authority. And therefore, you'll think of a person like who says what you said as just that's his belief. That doesn't convince me. I mean, and what would you respond to him?
Exactly.
But how would you tell him, I feel sorry for you?
But there's no way to convince a person of faith is a gift. You cannot convince a person.
And he could say, oh, another fanatic. And what would you say? I know what you'd say. Here's some pakora and some samosa.
You pray for it.
You pray for him. That's what the Christians say, by the way. When you meet them on the street and they're preaching, and you say, no thanks, I'm Hare Krishna, and they say, do you mind if we pray for you? So why is faith, I want something a little more objective, why is faith great wealth? Faith in the Supreme Lord. Why isn't money wealth? Well, certainly money is wealth.
It's internal.
Because it's internal, so speak more on that. Listen, speak more on that.
Oh,
No one can take it away from you. No one can take it away. See, if you have a wealth, everyone is trying to, if it's financial, everyone is trying to take it away from you. And if you have faith, no one is trying to take it away from you, as you were pointing out. But you have something that, although it's, you could say it's subjective, not objective, you can't quantify it in one sense, that have this much and here it is for you to see. But when Prahlad Maharaj, for example, was under so much pressure, and he was trying to, and his own father, who was supposed to be his natural shelter and protector, was trying to kill him, he was in no anxiety. He was in no anxiety. And Hiranyakashipu could see that. And that astounded Hiranyakashipu. He couldn't understand, because if someone powerful is threatening you and is trying to kill you, you're going to naturally will be shaking. But Prahlad wasn't shaking at all. And his faith, which was based on his experience of Krishna, this is described earlier, that he was actually seeing Krishna, so it wasn't just a belief, he was experiencing Krishna. And he wasn't trembling at all in that most dangerous circumstance. That made Hiranyakashipu tremble. Because he knew that this boy was accessing power. And this person, Hiranyakashipu, was threatening the boy with power, with his power. But since the boy wasn't at all frightened, he feared that that boy was accessing power that was greater than his power, and he became frightened. And some people, when they become frightened, they run. And some people, when they become frightened, they try to work it out. But there are other people, when they become frightened, they attack. And that's what Hiranyakashipu did. He attacked Prahlad even more. So there's a point in this, me telling that story, because I challenged Murali saying, how can you show me faith? Just your belief? And the answer that Prahlad gave by his example was just that, by his actions. That's how we show that we don't interact with material world in the same way that a person who's a materialistic person interacts with the world. Because we don't want to, because a materialistic person, he's bet his life, in a sense, on getting something from this world. And he has a different relationship with the world than a devotee does. A devotee sees the world, he knows it's there, he interacts with it, but he sees it in a very different way than a non-devotee. He sees it as a realm in which my practice and faith and love can grow. And most of us are sort of in between. Yeah, I see it in that way. Yeah, okay, but also maybe perhaps I could get a little bit of something from it, perhaps. So then Krishna he's kind to a devotee, and as he so desires, he'll help such a devotee. But we should try to move towards this side, seeing the world. Because if we try to arrange the world according to our plans for pleasure, then we're going to be cheated and disappointed. And therefore devotees are advised to keep very strongly the words of Lord Brahma, Tatteyunu kampam susamikshimano bunjene vapma vapkripakam vidbhagava puram vidranam namaste jivateo mukti pade sadayava, seeing Krishna's mercy in all that occurs. And being firmly fixed in that. And we do have a little more time left. So the last sentence we read was this one: a pure devotee who has firm faith in the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be considered a most learned scholar, the topmost aristocrat, and the richest man in the whole world. All godly qualities automatically exist in such a devotee. In the preaching work of the Krishna consciousness movement, we, as servants of the servant of the servant of the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, fully believe in the words of Krishna and his servants, the disciplic succession. In this way, we are presenting the words of Krishna throughout the world. So who is Prabhupada speaking about? Who is he speaking about? Yeah, himself, obviously. And look how he's speaking about himself, but look how he's thinking of himself. Now you can count the servants here. We, as servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How many? 4 servants, but it could go on a lot longer. Fully believe in the words of Krishna and his servants, the disciplic succession. In this way, we are presenting the words of Krishna throughout the world. Even though we are neither a rich man nor a very learned scholar, and even though we do not belong to any aristocracy, this movement, again he's speaking about himself, this movement is still being welcomed and is very easily spreading all over the world. Although we are very poor and have no professional source of income, Krishna supplies money whenever we need it. I know of 2 different examples of this one. Prabhupada, he made a deal with the agent who was selling the Fisher Mansion in Detroit. That was quite amazing, but it was run down. So Prabhupada bargained with him, and he got it for some hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever. And then Prabhupada, when he finished the negotiation and was alone with the devotees, he said, now how am I going to get this money? I don't have any money. And it came. I mean, it didn't come like magic from the sky, but it came from the kind generosity of the devotees who wanted to facilitate Prabhupada's desire. And a second one was, yes, on and on and on. But I can't remember the second one I was thinking of. Does anyone remember the second one I was thinking of? Do you remember?
I was thinking of...
Well, no, I didn't ask you what you were thinking. I was asking if you remembered what I was thinking. Well, neither can I. So it's... Oh, yes. And Prabhupada, he wanted to build Krishna Balaram Mandir, and he was in anxiety because he was building the Juhu temple, Mayapur, and Krishna Balaram Mandir all at the same time. And nowadays ISKCON is very wealthy. I mean, not compared to the wealthiest people in the world, but compared to those days, it's extremely wealthy. And then one devotee walked in, who was Guru Kripa. He walked in and said to Prabhupada, don't worry about it. I'll get the money for you. And then he walked out, Guru Kripa walked out and said, now how in the world am I going to get the money? and somehow or another, by hook or by crook, he did do it. But I always appreciated that very much. He took that anxiety from Prabhupada. Because Prabhupada had to carry so much anxiety in he was so sincere in trying to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. He took so much anxiety upon himself. So those who relieved him of his anxiety took responsibility. He very much appreciated. And so do we. So Prabhupada says, Krishna supplies money whenever we need it. Whenever we need some men, Krishna supplies them. Thus it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Yam labdha saparam labham manyate nadikam tata. Actually, if we can attain the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, we do not need anything else. We certainly do not need those things which a mundane person considers to be material assets. So quite wonderful. And there was one time that Caitanya Mataji, I saw Prabhupada in Fiji in 1976, and he was sitting back just like this and speaking, and he said, just a few people were in the room, he said, in the beginning we had nothing and we were in no anxiety, and now we have so much and still we have no anxiety. And when he said that, there was no anxiety that he had. But actually speaking, that was one mood. Actually speaking, he had to undergo so much anxiety to do the service that he wanted to offer to his Guru Maharaj and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the disciplic succession. So much he had to deal with disciples who were young, unsteady. He had to deal with people who were trying to cheat those young disciples who weren't very experienced. He had to deal with governments that were against. He had to deal with sometimes his own god brothers were sometimes not cooperating and were working against him, and so many things he had to struggle against. So he was such a hero that despite all these struggles, he could be in the mood and say, and now we have so much and there's no anxiety. but such a hero. Okay. Any questions or comments? Did you want to say anything?
In
Yes.
the beginning, the young Brahmana, he really didn't want the to take a wife, offered to him.
Yes.
It sounded like very much.
Huh?
It sounded like very much he really didn't want.
Yeah, well, that'll come up.
Then in the end, he pushed hard for it.
Right, but he'll describe it that, and we accept his word as it was. He wasn't interested in that as much as he didn't want to see this older Brahmana break his religious principle, have broken his word that he promised before the deity. That was his motivation. He'll say that very soon. So, and sometimes we say things, but actually something else is going on inside. But he was young and pure, so he was pure-hearted, such a devotee. And the reason, as we said before, the reason why we know he was such a great devotee was because the deity came. He walked all the way, thousands of miles, just to protect these two, the words of these two people. So he was so pure and so devoted that the deity reciprocated with him. Yes.
So, if someone makes a promise and they don't keep it, but we wouldn't want something for them to get like a bad reaction. So, if they don't manage to keep their promise, how do we ensure that they don't get some kind of reaction for not keeping that?
Well, that was the issue that the young Brahmana confronted, and he did his best to make sure that the older Brahmana kept his word.
And if the word doesn't get kept, can they?
Can you force him?
Well, I thought they could at least just forgive or try to forgive.
But that wasn't the issue about forgiving. It was that he had made a promise before the deity. The issue wasn't forgiving. Never mind, I don't want, it's okay. But that wouldn't have solved the problem. The problem was that he had made the promise to the deity before the deity. Yes? Any other questions or comments? Yes? I said something that you didn't understand, so now I'm just...
I understood, but I'm just trying to see whether I understood it correctly. You said the material world is a realm where one can practice to get faith and...
Practice, comma, get faith, comma. To put, when practices mean it's a place for performing sadhana. That's what I meant. So it's a place to perform sadhana, to increase our faith, and ultimately to gain love. Yeah, for Krishna. That's the purpose.
We say that also life experiences will help you to get this faith and love.
Well, that's what we're saying. But life's experiences can help you, not will help you. They can help you if you have the right consciousness to view those life experiences in that way. It depends on the consciousness and how it's viewed, how you want to view your life. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Caitanya Caritamrta ki jai, Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Sakshi Gopala ki jai, old Brahmana, young Brahmana ki jai. And even without the old Brahmana's son, this Leela couldn't have taken place, so he also gets credit. Hare Krishna. And so do all of you, because you wanted to hear. Hare Krishna.